Okay students, we have already seen to the first point, that is functional foremanship, where one factory they divide it into two departments and each of the departments give in charge, that is if it is the first part is the planning in charge, they divide it into four foremanship, and the other part, that is production department, will be having four foremanship. So each of the functional foremanship who are expertised in their particular area will be handling it and giving directions to the workers. The second point, we will be moving on to the second point, that is standardization and simplification. Here, what do you mean by standardization? We will be looking into the first part, that is standardization. Standardization refers to the process of setting standards. Standards for what? Standards for every business activity. So when you are setting up the standards, they act as a benchmark. Okay, so here you need to follow, what you need to follow is the possible standard way to get a work done. So it should start from the time you are selecting your tools, equipments and machines. So the very basic, when you are choosing your tools or equipments or machines that is needed in the process of production, the work of standardization begins. Now what you aim at, your ultimate aim is you set up a standard. Okay, so what is the standard output? What is the standard task you will be doing? So when you are setting up all those things, the labor cost, your main aim is to reduce the labor cost, and also you want to increase your turnover. So ultimately you aim at increasing your turnover, which in return will increase your profit margin and also reducing your cost, whatever you are involving, cost of production, whatever you are going to involve in it. And you try to find out the best way, that is a standard way where the tasks can be undertaken. Next, here you can just give the example of certain companies such as Toyota, which is following this principle. The next part of standardization is simplification, standardization and simplification. So under simplification, what do you aim at? The word tells you it is to make still simple. So here you are trying to eliminate the unwanted activities whichever is there, eliminating the superfluous activities. You want to reduce the diversity in products. It's given eliminating unnecessary diversity of products. The varieties, whatever you are involving, the sizes, the dimensions. Because when you have to concentrate on too many products, what happens? You cannot come out with the best product. So what you do is you try to eliminate unwanted activities or unwanted varieties or dimensions or sizes or shape, whatever it is. Here you are reducing the inventory. In return, what you do is you try to reduce the inventory involved there. You want to reduce the labor cost there, and unnecessarily holding out inventories will lead to what? Extra cost. Because when you have got inventories with you, you have to have place for holding those things. You need to warehouse facility where you can hold this inventory which is remaining with you at the end of the year. So to reduce all these costs, you go in for having simplification. So that is regarding the point of standardization and simplification. Next, we move on to the third product. So the technique, that is method study. Now what actually is method study? Here you are trying to find out one best method out of the various methods whatever is available, which is the best one, which will reduce the cost, try to give you more of income or profit, reduce unwanted activities and the best flow of job. Here you are targeting at assembly line. What do you mean by assembly line? For example, if yours is a car manufacturing company, if yours is a car manufacturing company, you have to get all the components whatever is needed for the manufacture of a car, get it together at one place, assemble it at one place and then go on with the production or the manufacturing. If everything is not got to one place at the right time, what happens? There is always the chances that you are going to waste time. Wasting time leads to wasting of your valuable resources, human resources wasted, and unnecessarily you are involving more of cost. When you are having more cost, simultaneously what's going to come down? Your profit is going to come down and everyone will be affected. Even the output what you have to give will not be on time. So here under this particular study, you study as to what is the best method you have to find out. Now what you target or what is the aim in having the method study? You have to cater on three things. First is to minimize cost of production. So you want to minimize your cost of production, whatever cost is involved in the process of production, in the various processes what is needed in the production process, you want to reduce those costs. The second point being maximize the quality. Maximize the quality. As you all know, earlier it was market oriented, but at present it is customer or consumer oriented. So when you are catering to the needs of the customer, you have to see to their taste and preferences and get out the product as per their taste and preferences. So when that is catered to, you have to bear in mind the quality. People don't mind paying more when the quality, when the product is of a standard type. Okay, so the second point you have to focus on would be the maximizing the quality, and third one, the satisfaction of the customer, which is very important. Satisfaction of customer. Ultimately your target is that to satisfy your customer. You first of all you have to maintain the customer who is a regular customer with you, and then also see to it that you have new customers who come to buy your products. So when that has to be seen, you have to see that you are giving out the quality product so that they are satisfied, 100% satisfied with their product, and they are not going to move out to another product. They are not going to have a product shift. So when all these has to be taken into account, you have to be very careful with the method study. We are moving on to the next point. That's the fourth one. We study about motion study. Now it refers to the study of movements, okay, of machines or equipments of people, like it may be lifting, or you're going to pull objects, or how you design, or you want to change the positions. So all these comes under motion study. Now here what you aim at or what you want to target at is the movement of machines, equipments and other things, including workers. There should be a free flow of movements. When you want to see how the materials as well as the human resources are making movement within a workplace, it should be such that there is free flow. Because if there is always a confusion when you are moving things and the human resources, then there are likely that there is a chance of wasting your time for stoppage. You want, when you are moving a machine, it is occupying more of a space and you do not have time in place to move there. So that will lead to wastage of time. Unnecessarily your efforts are wasted. Every time if you want to keep on change the positions of the machines in your workplace, everything is a wastage. So what you aim at, first to see how the men or the human resources as well as the material resources are moved about. Next, you try to differentiate between productive and unproductive movements. So unnecessarily, if you are going to take a real life instance, you have got a classroom, you have got a classroom set with the required number of bench and desks, and during the examination time you have shifted certain desks and benches, and now inside the classroom there are extra desks and benches placed. And each time you are entering and going out, you feel that there is congestion inside the classroom. You are not feeling free to move about. Okay, so it's very sad to know that, na? So you will want to shift those extra desks and benches outside, so that again you have a free movement. So same way in a factory or inside the workplace, you have to see as to what are the productive and the unproductive movements. Unnecessarily you are wanting to make movements which is not at all needed. If you take an example of a construction company, they may have an idea, like there are two options available to them. If the materials has to move from the ground floor to the third floor, there are two options. Either there is a staircase, so the worker can take the staircase, or directly they can make arrangement using an equipment or certain system where the bricks or the stones are directly moved to the third floor. Which do you think would save time? Obviously the second method, where you have an equipment which is carrying lots of stones directly to the, or bricks directly to the third floor. Instead of each time the worker, he will be carrying one brick, he will be moving up and coming down. That means lot of time and energy is wasted there. So they want to find out what is productive and unproductive and try to reduce the unproductive movements. That comes in the third step. As I told you here itself, you want to cut short or want to eliminate or want to cancel the unnecessary unproductive movements. Next, if that has to be done, you have to design certain equipments or tools which would help you to remove, cut short or bypass all the unproductive movements. When such equipments are installed, it saves you a lot of time and efforts. So that is what you see under the motion study, the best way how you can move the materials and the human resource. We come to the next point, that is time study. The word is telling you time, how you maintain this time there. So here we aim at, first point would be the standard time. So you set up a standard time, that is what is the starting and the finishing time. If you are going to take example of a college or a school, you have your starting time, that is what time you have to be in college. If it is 9 o'clock, you are supposed to be inside the campus. So before the bell goes, a student is expected to be inside the campus, that is it may be 8:45, 8:50 or so. 9 o'clock the bell goes, the student is expected to be in the classroom. So that is the standard time set for your institution. When it comes to factory or a workplace too, they should be having a standard time set. So what time will be set up so that you can begin that particular job at that particular time. After the time has been set, next part would be the standard target. Now what is this? The objective of this is to determine the number of employees to be working within the workforce or within your factory. Once you determine that, then you would find out, like you have given a target to them, you are supposed to finish this job within that time, stipulated time, and they are supposed to be finishing that job at that given time only. They should not be exceeding the time. You see to it that they finish the job in that particular given time interval. Third one, what you see is, you try to categorize between efficient and inefficient workers, because you know wastage is there, wastage of time will be there when some people are there in the factory or in the workplace where they are unnecessarily wasting time, like they take a break, they are lazy to work, they are showing their lethargy, they are not interested to work. So you try to find out who is the inefficient people, who are the inefficient people, and try to have a categorization between them, that is efficient and inefficient person. Once you have done that, next part would be determining the actual workforce you need. So you have to determine what is the actual number of people you need to be appointing so that they perform the given job, including all these points within the standard time, within the set standard target, and then you need not have a categorized between efficient and inefficient, because already you are cut short and you already know what is the work, how many workers you need, and you go by that particular number. Now here we can just take a small example. If yours is a cardboard box preparing company, so you have set up a target, 20 minutes is needed to prepare one cardboard box. Okay. So if in 20 minutes you can prepare one cardboard box, in 1 hour you can prepare 3. If you take a note of it, you can prepare 3 cardboard boxes. In a shift, a worker works, in one shift if he is working for 8 hours. Out of that 8 hours, you keep 1 hour set aside for his rest time. He needs a break in between. No person is so much full of energy that he will be working throughout the day without a break. So when he is given a break of 1 hour, the remaining, if from 8 hours, if 1 hour is a break, the time what he gets is 7 hours. So if in 1 hour he prepares 3 cardboard boxes, then in 7 hours obviously it is going to be 21 cardboard boxes. So this is the standard what is set. The standard output to be got is 21 boxes. So it will not fall lesser than that nor more than that, right. So this is our ultimate intention of finding out a time study to stop wastage of time. The next point what you see is the fatigue study. This is at what point of time the worker feels tired. He is not too energetic to work to his maximum, to give his best or his 100% efficiency. No normal human can, I think, work more than 6 to 8 hours. At a stretch continuously he has been working and you do not provide him a gap in between or a break in between or a rest in between, then he is not going to give his best. So if you have to see him in full energy and full of stamina, you have to see to it, you have to focus on these 3 aspects or 3 where you aim at under this particular study. That is, first one, frequency of interval. How frequent can you give him a break or a rest in between his work? Second one, the duration of intervals. For how long can you give him a break? Third one, depending on the number of rest intervals you can give him. Because a person not only is physically tired, they become mentally tired too. There are chances they are becoming mentally tired too after a long working in the same place for a long time. Unless and until the physical conditions are good of the workplace, you have to see to it that the physical condition provided are good, the restroom whatever is given to him is good. So if his needs are catered to, he is surely going to put in his best. As students, if you imagine, you are in a day you are supposed to be attending 5 hours. So all the 5 hours at one stretch, one class after the other class without a break. You just imagine your mindset. You are surely going to be mentally tired. If not physically, mentally you are going to be tired. And the capacity of listening or concentrating on the lesson is surely going to come down. Same way is it in the workplace. When the worker is continuously loaded with work, he becomes so tired that he really wants a break to relax for some time. So when that time is given to him, he becomes cheerful, full of stamina, energetic, and then back to work with 100% efficiency. So that is seen to under this particular study, to see that the worker is never too tired to give his best. We come to the 7th point, that is differential piece wage system. Okay, differential piece wage system. Here the technique emphasizes on paying different rate of wage. It's noted down here, emphasizes on differential piece rate, or you are going to have a difference between the wage payment what you are doing to your workers. Now on what basis? On what basis are they doing this? They will be looking into the efficiency and inefficiency factor. So to see the efficient worker is given more of wage compared to the inefficient worker. Now why do they tax? They set up a standard output. So they give a standard output that this much of units have to be produced, and they set up a standard rate per unit. If a worker is able to complete the job is in the standard time what it is set, and he is able to give up the standard output, then the wage system is depending on that particular thing. Higher or more, or if it is equal to the standard set, the output is equal to the standard set, then he will be paid more as compared to the worker who cannot meet the standard output. If his output is lesser than the standard set, then he will be paid lesser than the efficient worker. Now, what is their intention of doing so? Not to degrade the inefficient worker or not to find fault with the inefficient worker, but just to boost up his morale too. He should feel that if he is going to give his 100% efficiency or he is going to reach the target what is set, even he too will be given higher wages. He will feel motivated to work. So, they just want to create a sense of motivation, give a boost, give a sense of motivation to the inefficient worker to set that if he puts in his best and gives up or reaches the standard output target, even he will be given the same wage rate as per the efficient one. So, this is about the 7th one. Next point what we will be going to is about mental revolution. So, you have a concept known as mental revolution. Now, what is mental revolution? It involves a change in the mental attitude, a change in the mental attitude. Now, why if the mentality changes, what is going to happen? If the mentality of the workers as well as the manager towards each other, there should be a change in their thinking. Management or the managers cannot think they are great and they start degrading or looking down upon the workers. Workers cannot always find fault with the management. For each small matters, they find certain problems with the management, then they create agitation, conflicts, they think of going for strikes, lockouts. All those things are not wanted, right? If you want to create a healthy environment, working condition, then you should be going in understanding. So, there has to be a mental change of the management and of the workers. If this happens, what it will lead to? It will lead to positive thinking. Okay? So, when you change your mental outlook, it leads to positive thinking. Now, both the management as well as the worker should know they cannot survive without each other. Managers or the management need the help and support of the workers as well as the workers need the help and support of the management. Only when they go hand in hand can that organization move on smoothly. Ultimate, what is the target? To reach the organizational goals. So, if they are supposed to reach the organizational goals, they should be going hand in hand. Both should sense a belongingness towards the goals of the organization. They should feel they are one and both aim at what? Both aim at ultimately getting maximum profits. When they target for maximum profits, both will be benefited. The management will be benefited as well as the worker will be benefited. Here, they have to adapt systematic thinking. Going for systematic thinking. So, if a system has to go on smoothly, everything should be placed systematically. Now, the management, they want their workers to give in their best, then they will be approaching the workers and giving them proper guidelines as to how to work to their best, and if they work to their best, how will they be benefited. As even the worker should feel free to tell out their grievances. If they are not happy with the work environment, they are facing certain problems in the physical condition, they should feel free enough to come and tell out their problems. Only when you are free enough with each other to convey whatever problems you all have got, can you have a healthy environment within your workplace. Okay? So, ultimately, after going through all of the techniques, it is very clear that both we should be catering to the catering to the needs as well as the outlook of both the management and the workers. Now, having studied with the elements of principles and the techniques of principles, we can consider all these points when you are actually practically looking into the application of it, when it is as and when it is needed. The techniques and principle whatever was laid by Taylor, it was used then and it's used now too at present.